Welcome to the Babes Talking Business podcast, the space where female entrepreneurs are elevated and celebrated with your hosts, Shani Thompson and Lauren Kerr.
We're two best friends with over 10 years in business, a global impact and community of thousands. We've talked on stages around the world and have recently navigated the evolution of maiden to mother together. We're here to share the advice, the lessons, and the laughs along the way.
And we're inviting you to sit at the table and be in the room with women who are making bold moves, backing themselves, and showing you what's also available for you. Welcome back to the BTB Potty. Today we have the gorgeous Riley May on the podcast, and she is a phenomenal human being. Like, oh my goodness, such a powerhouse, specifically in the high ticket sales and feminine-led strategy space. So if you are wanting to learn more about how to approach your business in a more feminine way and say goodbye to bro sales strategy, then you are going to love this conversation. As a business coach and a sales expert, she helps female business owners scale their service-based businesses to multi-six and seven figures without chasing leads, second-guessing their pricing, or feeling like they have to prove their worth. So if you're ready to attract more of your dream clients and convert with confidence and make sales feel really good and effortless, then let's get right into it.
So welcome back to the BTB show, and we're popping your 2025 cherry for the year because you haven't recorded a podcast this year, Riley.
I know. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And it does feel weird to be behind the mic. Okay, I'm doing it.
Well, I'm glad you're here with us because we started talking before we were recording. We were like, wait. Let's just save it for the podcast. So there's lots to talk about today. I'm so excited.
So much juiciness.
I feel like we're going to have a lot to say.
We do.
And you've got a yapper on your hands. So if you give
Oh,
me a mic,
you and me, we're going to be best
friends.
So for people who may not know you, I know I've been following you online for the last year or so. I don't know how you came across my feed, and I just love the content you put out there for especially female business owners. But can you maybe share what inspired you to start business? How long have you been in business for? Like, take us back to where it started for you.
So 2019 was the beginning of my business journey. And it's so funny because I think when I reflect on my business journey, it's been very disjointed and there's been so many seasons in it. But I think in high school, I always knew I would work for myself in some capacity, and business or starting a business just was the obvious next step. So I studied my Cert 3 and 4, as a lot of people do, in grade 11 and 12, really as a means to not be at school, because I got to do like 2.5 days at school, 2.5 days of like study, or I had so many spares in high school that I just never really had to attend that much, if I'm honest. So I just did my Cert 3 and 4 in fitness. I was a PT working at like a really niche boutique gym in Noosa. And then once I finished school, I thought obvious next step would be to PT alongside my uni degree, which I got into very unwillingly. I lasted 5 weeks. I quit, and then I just went full time into my business. I remember my parents sat me down and said to me, you're either working full time or you're studying full time, and there's no other choice. So if you're going to work full time, make it happen. And in my head at the time, I remember thinking, like, I don't want to work for anyone. I know I'm not a very good employee. I've never really had a job, and I don't have any intention on like getting one. So I've got to make my business full time. So at that stage, I started my PT. I kind of scaled that to a certain point. Obviously with COVID, moved online. And then that just evolved over time, online coaching, mindset coaching. And then at a certain point, it would have been around 2020, I think 2 or 2021 end of, naturally business coaching kind of started to come into things because other women were asking me like, hey, can you help me scale my online business? Can you help me scale my fitness business? And at that time, I'd done really well scaling my own. So I thought, I guess I can. I remember asking my mentor, like, can I do that? Like, am I allowed to help other people? And she was like, do you want to? I'm like, yeah, I love business. I love strategy. I love this. I love that. I know how to do it. So then that started to kind of move behind the scenes as I was kind of pivoting out of fitness and mindset. And now for the last sort of 2.5, 3 years, I've been solely business. And that's kind of been my journey. Yeah.
So crazy. It's such a good time too, because like with 2020 and COVID, like that would have been a phenomenal year to like really expand.
Yeah.
With everyone being stuck at home. And I feel like in 2020, a lot of people invested like in online coaches and because there was nothing else to do, and people really up leveled that year.
Totally. And I think it was funny because you know how sometimes, you know, you want to pivot or make a change, and then the universe kind of gives you that opportunity. I knew towards the end of 2019 that I was like, okay, I like PT, but this is not forever. I'm like, this is not forever. Like, I want to grow and evolve. And I think it was fairly new at the time, even not that online coaching was new, but the whole concept of being a coach online, especially in Australia, I think was still quite fresh. You know, America, I feel, is always like that 5 to 10 years ahead of us, but we're quite behind. So we're playing catch up now, but it wasn't a norm. I didn't know anyone doing it. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't really have anyone that I looked up to in it. And then when I made that decision, COVID hit and I was like, okay, well, I've got to do this. And then from there, it's been so much trial and error.
Yeah.
And I think if you're entering the industry now, you're entering at a very different time to what it was at that stage.
I was going to say, because I feel like the coaching and the business space, for me particularly, I feel like I've got a really bad taste of it for the last 2 years, because I feel like every second person is a coach, and you'll see and hear someone giving advice, and then the next coach, the next person in your feed is giving the conflicting advice. There's just so many voices out there coaching. When you were stepping into that space, because I know you just mentioned there wasn't really anyone that you were like looking up to. So were you self-taught? Like, who was the content that you were learning and consuming to teach yourself how to scale your business to then be excited to help other women do it?
It was so funny because it got to the end of 2020 and I'd been online for a year then, very trial and error. I'm talking like $10 a week for Facebook Live workouts. Like, we're making it up.
I love it. Look at the evolution though.
We were making it up as we went. And I was having fun with it. I didn't know brand strategy. I didn't know any of it, but I was showing up online. I was consistent with content. I was just doing my thing and I always had clients. And I thought, okay, this is just like, it's working. So I don't know. We'll just see how it goes. And I remember just searching business coach at the end of 2020 in my Instagram, because I thought, if I'm going to do this, I should probably learn like how to do this. And it took me 2 years to get there. And honestly, it sounds vain. I teach this in sales, but I just went for the coach that visually appealed to me. As silly as it sounded, I was like, you're beautiful and I love your feed and I like what you're saying. And yeah, you can be my coach. And I signed with her, and it was a $6,000 investment for 6 months, which we can look at now and go, that's very reasonable. Very reasonable for that level of coaching. But at the time, I'm like, I can't believe I'm going to spend $6,000 on a coach. And my parents and partner and everyone were like, who is this woman? Like, you can't just spend like that type of money on someone, because it was so new. And even to me, it was so new. So I'm like, maybe you're right. Like, maybe I shouldn't spend this money. Did it anyway. And then that just put me on a very different trajectory. I started learning just different sales techniques, brand positioning, building out an offer suite, what it looked like to actually do a proper launch, scale through not just one-to-one, like all those really basic foundational things was what I was coming into, alongside a lot of like conscious, subconscious mindset work that I hadn't been open to yet. So I think that really prompted my self-development journey. And I don't think there's any bigger personal development space you could be in than starting a business. Like that is personal development on absolute steroids. And that was the beginning of that for me in 2020.
So cool. Well, tell us like what you do now in your business, because it's quite unique and it's specifically for female entrepreneurs as well.
So I mainly focus on female service providers, and I do have women that kind of fall just outside of that category, but that's mainly who I support. And I'm really big on just taking a very feminine-led approach when it comes to brand positioning, sales strategies, and scaling your service-based business. So I know for me over time, I've been taught so many different strategies and so many different ways of scaling. And I guess for transparency, it's important for any coach or mentor to admit and say out loud that there is not one way of doing anything. You know, there are women, people, whoever, scaling to multi-seven figures in very different ways. So for someone to sit there and say there is no other way is complete bullshit, because that's so untrue. You know, there's faceless accounts scaling to 7 figures. There's people that rely solely on a podcast that scale to 7 figures. There's bro marketing approach that scale to 7 figures. But it's picking, I think, a mentor, a coach, or a methodology that makes sense to you, what you value, and how you want to scale your business. So for me, I know that I could take, say, quite a bro approach to business. I don't want a business if it's that approach. You know, it's not in alignment with who I am or what I value. So I take a different one. So I guess for me and the women I work with, they're very big on taking a very genuine approach to sales and brand and just delivering a really incredible service for their clients as well and getting the transformation they promise.
Let's talk about bro marketing. And for those who don't know what that means, give us like a Oxford Dictionary meaning.
I was going to say I should just search like by definition what bro marketing is. I guess bro marketing is really quite a masculine-led approach to sales and business. So it very much leverages and I'm going to say leverages a bro marketing approach in the terms of authority-driven content, but really it leverages urgency, it leverages competition, and to an extent, like exaggerated authority. So it's very much the scale to 7 figures in 30 days using this approach, join now, otherwise you're not going to XYZ.
Yeah.
So very in your face, very urgent, very cold DMs, sales calls, you're not getting off the phone till you close a sale. That type of vibe is what we can probably just like umbrella term bro marketing.
Which works for some people.
Well, and that's what I was saying. When you think about, so you came into the space around 2019 and like you said, it was, I guess, refreshing because there wasn't too many voices in that space. And I look at even why I was called to your page. So I'm like, I do love the way that you teach sales. Like, it is a very feminine approach to sales. And we're just talking before we press record, because we've been in the sales game for like 10 years now. And I feel like what we were taught in the first 5 years of our business is totally different and contradicts to what you teach. And it's like, now I'm like, is it the bro marketing? Is it just that we've been taught by dinosaurs? Is it because most of the men, most of the voices in the space are men, and do men do sales differently to women? And then I know something that you spoke about, I've heard you speak on one of your podcasts, like, women, if your avatar or your main person that you're talking to is a woman, we do like to be sold to differently as well. So does that change how you show up online? So I was like excited to tease out, how did you learn this marketing? Were you exposed to bro marketing too? Do you feel like it's dominant? Because I feel like that's what our first 5 or 6 years in business was, what we were taught and how we did business.
It was absolutely what I was taught initially. I remember I was very much taught the strategy of run a 5-day free program, deliver so much value, sell on the last training call day of the free event, and then get people across to booking discovery calls with you. I remember I had about 50 women booking discovery calls over a 2-week period. So I was doing 10 calls a day.
That's crazy.
Sales calls a day. And I had like a 15, 20-minute window for each. I'd pitch the program, ask the questions, follow the script, come in with the sale. I'd either convert or I wouldn't convert. And then, of course, take payment over the phone.
Wow.
Nothing made me want to tap out of business harder than that 2-week period.
Yeah.
I hated it. I remember my nervous system was so shot. I felt anxious every day. Every call felt like I had to hold my breath again until I could do the sales pitch, and until I I think we all know the feeling, especially if you're a woman in business listening, where you feel like a client's almost there and then you're like, but she doesn't know the investment yet.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't know what she's up for. But I've got her right there. And there's almost this shame on your end around even being transparent around the pricing. You don't want to say it. They don't want to receive it. And then the minute you do, it's either like a ghosting or I can't do that or it's not feasible. And then it creates this really weird dynamic even in that relationship.
Yeah.
Like you probably felt like you had a good thing going and then it's instantly gone.
You're like, I did that call. I did all that time with you. Like,
and you're resentful.
I
and
gave you
feel
so much
drained and you feel
value.
defeated, depleted, like all of the things. And I remember after that launch, don't get me wrong, 120K in sales, I did really well. But I remember thinking, I never want to do that again.
Yeah.
Like if that's what's required, I do not want to do that again. A big takeaway in this as well, and this is probably another kind of pillar of this conversation, is who I attracted at that time were women that did not get the result that I promised, because I attracted very disempowered humans. And I can reflect now from like a psych perspective, I held their hand through the sales process. I held their hand through the program itself. And because I very much leverage pain point marketing, which is what I was taught at the time, I attracted women married to their pain.
Yeah.
Not willing to actually move through that and then get the transformation I'm promising.
Yeah.
Which I know I could deliver, but they weren't ready to create that for themselves.
They're just a different type of woman. And, you know, it's funny you say that, because do you remember like the acronym that we were taught, which was how to tell your story? And the acronym, I'm not kidding you, was PAIN. So it was PAIN, P for pain, A for, what was A?
No, it's plot. Sorry. It's plot. P starts with pain. L's your lesson, O's
The
the opportunity,
opportunity.
and T's like the triumph. So like that's even still what's massively taught in network marketing today. It's like,
But you start with the pain.
you start with, this is where I was, pain. This was the lesson, or this was like my turning point. This was the opportunity that came up that I took a chance on, and this is the triumph. Or like, so you don't end in the shit, in the pain, but you lead with it. And I know what I've seen, similar to what you kind of spoke about in the last 2 years, especially for women in business, I see a lot of female coaches changing that, the strategy, and talking about actual desire marketing and attracting a more empowered woman. So with what you've learnt through your own business journey, and obviously now what you teach, what do you feel like are the biggest differences between that bro marketing, what a lot of us are kind of brought into business doing it ourselves, to what now you're seeing allows you to create sales with ease, with a calm nervous system, where you actually enjoy the process, where you're not feeling burnt out after it all?
I think transparency, authenticity, and connection. I'm going to use the word connection because I think it sums it up the best. But and caring, like, you know, connection and caring. I'll give the example, like I had that 120K launch. I repeated the exact same method again in terms of launch strategy 6 months later. But I said to myself, all I'm going to do differently is say the price. So before they book a disco call,
they know,
you know what the price is. And it was around $3,500 for 6 months. So that was the investment. So quite a high ticket. And I was like, this is going to work or it's not going to work. Like I'm going to fall flat on my face or I'm not. And I just put it in my application form. And I think the final question was, the investment for this program is $3,333. Can you pay in full, payment plan, or is it not suited right now, but you'd love to chat options? So I just had the 3 options there. When I got on the calls, my nervous system's completely calm. They know the investment. They know the inclusions. I'm not doing any heavy lifts, like lifting, other than focusing on serving the client instead of selling to the prospect client. Very different energy.
Yeah.
You know, when you're getting on to connect and not convert, or serve and not sell, it feels a lot different. So all I have to worry about is, how was your morning? How are you feeling? Tell me more about you. Okay, incredible. You know the investment. I've seen that you're ready to pay in full. Does that still feel good based on the conversation we've just had? Yeah, it does. Amazing. Here's a payment link. No, this is what's included. This is the investment. Swindle, swindle, swindle. It's like that client's had their process. They're good for it. And the conversation is just to connect and build a relationship, and not leverage any manipulative sales tactics to convert.
Yeah, or have them feel like, yes, they make the investment, but then after regret it because they feel like in the moment, you know, they got swept up in the moment and like gave over their credit card.
Yes.
Which is also like a really horrible feeling as a coach, to like be like, I kind of tricked you into this.
Yeah. And was that your decision? You know, I only want to attract women who have hit their I'm done moment themselves and they're just ready to create change. Yeah. So when they come to me, it's like, yeah, I'm in. Like, I'm so ready. I'm so good to move. And there's no convincing. It's just incredible. I'll send you the link, payment plan or pay in full. Pay in full. Okay, amazing. It just gets to be really, really easy. And I think sometimes we complicate it because we're taught to complicate it. And if we think about the difference between men and women, if you're a woman selling to women, why are we not leveraging that? Tell me that my hair looks nice. Tell me that you love my home office. Tell me that my outfits are cool. Like, we connect over, oh my God, I love that dress on you.
Yeah.
Like, that's how we feel connection. So if you come in with a sales script of like, okay, the next thing I've meant to say is this, we feel that. And I think women are incredibly intuitive.
Yeah.
You think dating even, we see through shit so easily and our bodies don't lie. And, you know, because we're so intuitive, if we feel off, we feel off. So you're going to lose a conversion really quickly if you're not genuine in your approach. And a lot of women as well, a lot of us have that good girl conditioning, that nice girl conditioning, very people pleasing by nature, based on, you know, external factors. So when you have that approach of, say, there's no price transparency, you get them on the phone, they're ready to invest based on the conversation you had, and you drop the price point, a lot of women will say, yep, I'm in, to not feel shame on that call.
But they won't actually close. They might then just ghost you afterwards.
Yep, anyway. Give me 5. I'll talk to my husband. I'll talk to my partner. Like, we've heard all of the things. There's all the objections. And then they might even close or they may not. But even if they close, I can guarantee they pull out within like 2 days, 7 days, 2 weeks, or they're the first person to complain during the space that it wasn't what they thought it would be.
expected and they want their money
because
back.
they didn't want to invest in the first place.
Do you feel like having that transparency too in pricing, did that reduce when you compare it to the first launch that you did? Did it reduce the amount of calls you actually did because people already qualified themselves out? So it kind of saved you the time as well. But did you have just as successful as a launch but with less time? Or what did you find from that process?
So from memory, I think my conversion rate percentage-wise from the first one was I converted 33 and that was about 50 calls. So I don't know the percentage of that. Math, I failed math. I don't know that. But it quite high, right, from that. So that was cool. I knew I was good at closing sales from that, but it still didn't feel good. Second time round, I can't remember the exact amount of calls that were booked disco-wise, but I converted 32.
Okay.
So I had the same result with a different approach, just in terms of like, I'm going to show the price and I'm not going to show the price. And that taught me this really works and converts. Fast forward a couple of years, and I use this example quite often. This is well before I taught like my method attraction sales and all that. It was just me kind of trialing and erroring early on with closing sales. I had a woman follow me that morning, and then in the afternoon we were DMing, and she was like, hey, I'm just interested in coaching. And I remember I just sent her a DM, which is what I teach my clients. And I follow quite, it's scripted, but it's completely like, unhinged in the sense like I still say what I want.
You know what you intuitively know what to say.
Totally.
There's structure, but I
know the structure of leading the conversation, but I'm not married to exactly what I have to say, and it's always a voice note. So I was just like, hey, how are you? So glad you've inquired. Like, tell me more about you, your business, what you're working towards, and let's just open up a conversation. That afternoon, she paid me $20K in full. She followed me that morning. And something she said to me once we'd closed and we were in and we started mentorship was, no one cared the way you did. She goes, I reached out to like 7 coaches in probably like a week period. I got application forms sent. I got sales pages sent. I didn't get a response, or I got a message back. You just spoke to me.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
20K pay in full.
I think about like my own buying behavior, and like the business coach that I have now, like she did the same thing. Yeah, she like, I reached out to her. No, I replied to a story of hers. Really loved like her methodology of how she does things. And she was just like so open to DMing me and VM, like voice messaging. And I remember thinking, gosh, she must be so busy, but okay, the VMs, like I'm down for them. And like it just made natural sense to invest with her, because I was like, I want to do that for people too. Yeah. Like I want to have people feel how you've just made me feel.
I think feeling's so important to leverage in business. You know, in life in general, you only have a feeling attached to a memory. You don't really remember what was said or done. You know, if you think back to any experience in your life, you will always look at a person and go, like, Shani made me feel this way. And that's the association you have to the person. So for me, it's like, irrespective of closing, I've built a relationship, and I want to make sure that I've created that feeling that I want my client to experience. And I don't actually care if you're investing in a $27 offer creation template or $20,000 for private mentorship. You're going to still get that level of care from me, because it's building a relationship. And even probably 12 months ago, I made that shift. I'd never voice note if it was anything lower ticket. I was like, what's the point? Like, you should buy it. Like, it's $97 or it's $300. And I was like, no, I'm gonna shift my approach in that and lead differently, and conversion increased.
Yeah. So, I remember actually you posted recently about how you changed up something about like the time limit that you have with your clients. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, what made you pivot and change the way that you personally service and provide like care for your clients?
2022 and 3, I was in a lot of coaching containers where boundaries were heavily spoken about, heavily applied, and like, you know, integrated in containers where it was like, you almost felt like you're not to message your mentor on Instagram, like you're stepping outside of boundaries, and that's not what you've paid for. And it felt very tight, like 45-minute call, if we were 3 minutes over, I'd be like, so sorry that I'm going over, you know, like very tight boundaries. And I'm a big believer that boundaries should create connection and not separation. But I was sort of auditing myself, auditing my business, auditing my ability to lead and what I wanted spaces to feel like and the service to be. And I thought, a call once a fortnight, audio with Telegram on these days, and only this in this capacity, doesn't actually feel like it's creating connection anymore. It feels like it's creating separation. So I just took an audit with myself and thought, what service do you want to deliver? What does that look like? And I introduced unlimited calls in my private spaces, which felt strange because I'd come from fortnightly, very tight hours, like this is what I do, to being like, you can call me when you want and you can do what you want. And the irony in doing that, it's almost like when you're dieting or integrating like a new habit, right? You say you can't eat the chocolate, you want to eat the chocolate. And then if you can't eat the chocolate, you don't eat the chocolate.
Yeah.
It's that sort of like been that experience with my clients where one, I attract very successful, busy, driven women. So they don't have time to be on a call every 5 seconds or want that level of support. But if you need 10 minutes here on an audio on a Saturday, so be it. And trusting they're not going to abuse the privilege of that type of access. So it's been really cool because sometimes it's a 2-hour workshop and we're sitting down and we're just like getting into something together. Then other times it's, hey, can we go for a walk and talk? And I'm calling on my personal phone.
So
and
cool.
I've just let myself actually want spaces to be that way and not make it wrong. But it's been really cool.
Do you think that has something to do with too, like you said, if we talk about the difference in bro marketing and what would you call this marketing? Feminine sales? I don't even, is there a word for it? We're not, if this isn't bro marketing, what are we calling it?
I call it feminine led sales, but that's very much self-proclaimed.
Let's just say feminine led sales.
Feminine led sales.
But do you also feel like that you're doing something different on the very start of the marketing sense of things where you're attracting a woman, a different type of woman in who is self-led, who is going to respect your time, opposed to maybe if you're doing bro marketing, you're attracting someone who is in their pain. What do you feel like, what are you doing differently when you think about how you originally taught in business 5-6 years ago to how you now show up and message and do marketing to attract a different type of woman who's not in her pain?
I think a massive thing is getting super clear on your values as like a personal brand, but then also as a business. So I always think about different pillars. Like I really value my health. I value relationships. I value, female friendships. I value my training. So from a subliminal messaging perspective, I might put something that's sales related over the top of me doing deadlifts. But I know subliminally I'm actually showing my client like, hey, I value my health and fitness without ever saying I value my health and fitness. So if I attract certain clients, it's very unlikely I'll ever attract anyone that doesn't value their health and fitness, even though I've never said that anywhere. Anywhere. So it always starts with obviously brand and brand positioning and how you present. I'm really big on, I made a reel on it the other day, but like the halo effect, like how you present 1000% matters. I think something that women shy away from admitting or speaking to, because I think in the world we live in, it's like, don't upset anyone and don't say that, but how you look matters. And I will stand by that forever and ever and ever. And it's not even an opinion, like it's psychology, so the halo effect is real. It's a cognitive bias. You're always going to trust people that present a certain way. So I'm really big on, to an extent, like manipulating my brand to position myself in a way that attracts that type of client, because if they value their health and their fitness and they're disciplined and they're showing up in relationships a certain way and they're presenting a certain way, okay, you're a certain type of person. I attract what I am, not what I want. So it starts there. And then if we look at the second tier to that being more so your messaging, because that's the foundation of your brand. Like if you haven't nailed your messaging, like it just impacts everything from that point. So for me, if I'm talking to pain or problems, I'm speaking more so to frustrations than like the pain of what someone's experiencing. Because really, I teach this, but it's what I believe. I want to attract women who come to my DMs and they're like, can I have the link? Not, hi Riley, help. Because there's two different types of buyers, and we've all experienced that type of buyer, and then we've maybe experienced this, but this one exists when you speak to problems and then effectively position yourself to be the solution to the frustration, not just you feel this, you feel this, you feel this, you feel this. That client knows. So you don't actually have to spend time focusing on like problem aware content, because she's already problem aware. She's ready for a solution. So show her that you are the solution. And that's where I think that desire marketing, curiosity marketing, and speaking more to the transformation comes in, because that client who's going to message you and say, I'm ready to pay in full, is the client who's hit her I'm done moment. She doesn't need you to teach her about the problem for 6 months before moving into a space.
We are just briefly interrupting this episode to let you know about something we are so incredibly excited to share with you. We would love to invite and welcome you into our world, our transformative world of Her Renaissance, where your journey to personal and business growth begins. If you've been feeling stuck or uninspired or stagnant in your business, this is something we know you are going to love and something that you really have been waiting for. We created Her Renaissance, which is a potent 8-week container in the thick of our very own metamorphosis in business as we transitioned into motherhood. We kind of realized that things had to change, especially for our businesses to change. We had to change how we thought, how we spoke, dressed, executed. We pretty much needed an all-round evolution, and we needed to become more efficient, more hyper-focused, more intentional, so that we could really embody our next level version of ourselves. And so Her Renaissance was born in the thick of that transformation. And we just want to let you know, you don't have to be a mum to experience the power of this program. You just need to be ready for change. So I just want you to imagine yourself in a community where you're surrounded by high-level women who show you what's possible in your business. No longer will you feel isolated or unsure. Instead, this space will give you the proximity to role models who will guide you, support you, and celebrate every single milestone of yours. And this is your chance to peek behind the veil and see how other successful women run their businesses, how they think, how they move, and how they do it with the confidence and the grace that makes them so inspiring. So if you desire a personal evolution and you're craving growth in your business, then this is your new playground to immerse yourself in. Her Renaissance is an empowering 8-week self-led container designed to guide you on a transformative journey of self-discovery, and it's rooted in the wisdom of energetics, mindset, and an all-round holistic approach to empowerment and success. You'll learn how to validate yourself, how to reinvent your identity, how to recode your self-limiting beliefs. And it's really for those who are ready to raise their vibration and become an energetic match for new opportunities and people in their life. So if you are ready to welcome structure and strategy into your business, say goodbye to burnout and masculine-driven hustle, Her Renaissance definitely is going to deliver the sustainable structure and strategy that will bring you satisfaction and softness into your business as a woman. You'll master time management, learn how to set boundaries, learn how to lead with feminine energy, all while fostering self-trust and emotional intelligence. Throughout this comprehensive program, you'll delve into personal development, financial literacy, wellness, mindset, scalability, and business growth. And through our instructional modules, practical exercises, assignments, and our beautiful workbook that you will love to write in, you'll expand your vision, unlock your potential, and tap into the abundant opportunities that are available to you. If you're ready to take aligned action, upon completion, you'll experience profound transformation, heightened clarity, confidence, resilience, and a deeper connection to yourself and the universe. To find out more information, you can click on the link below in the show notes. Otherwise, you can contact Lauren or Shani on Instagram through our personal channels to have a chat with us to see if this could be something for you. Now, without further ado, let's get back to the episode.
It's like you said, I always say this, like, business is the biggest personal development journey you will ever go on, like ever.
Yeah.
So when you think back on your, what'd you say, you started in 2019, so let's say 6 years in business, and you look at your evolution, what do you think are like the 5 major moves? If you think of we've got other women who are starting businesses, whether they're on a coach, it's a service-based business, whatever it might be, they're in network marketing. When you look at your success and your journey and your personal and professional evolution over the last 6 years, what do you think are 5 major moves that you would attribute your success to?
I think it's so silly to say, but starting is the first move. And that arguably is the biggest roadblock that most people will experience. They will never start. I was actually speaking to my partner about it earlier, and how many people get caught up in the how and the I don't know. You know, I ban the words with clients when they start with me. I said, never are you to say I don't know or say you're good, you're fine, you're okay, or, you know, how do I do that thing? If you focus on the embodiment of who you have to become, you're just going to do it. So I remember for me, I thought, I just have to work this out. And in working it out, I have to start. And to start, I've just got to figure it out. So in that, it's exactly that personal development where trust that you'll just become the person you need to be to know how to execute the how. If you get caught up on the how, you're stuck in contemplation. That's a very easy scapegoat for procrastination because you fear what's on the other side of starting. So it's recognizing that, and that's always the first roadblock. Starting is going to be that. Second thing is really moving through that fear of judgment, I think.
Yeah.
And even though that's not necessarily a move, it's just the first thing that you're initiated into. The second you show up online, the second you call yourself a coach, the second you build the business or you start network marketing, like whatever the thing is, that's always going to be it. When you start to strengthen like emotional intelligence and become self-aware, you've got context and understanding for why people are the way they are and why they project and why they judge and then why you potentially fear it. Once you've got that awareness, it's pretty hard to use that as an excuse anymore. You know, I'm so big on that. It's like if I know better, a requirement is that I do better. So if I understand why someone judges me and I let that affect me, it's kind of not good enough, Riley, because you know better than that. So I have to move regardless. So that was always big for me. Like the minute I had that awareness, I'm like, you got to go, you got to go, you got to go, you got to go. And you can't stop in that. If I think about the third thing, it would have been investing in a coach because as funny as it sounds to be a coach saying invest in a coach, I don't care what anyone says. Like you can argue it till you're blue in the face. Proximity and having people in your corner supporting you will accelerate your growth. Yeah. It could be your health, could be your hormones. It could be relationships, manifestation. It does not matter what service you provide or what you sell.
So true.
Just get someone in the corner who's already done it so you can learn from them.
You don't have to do it on your own and you don't have to be a hero. I think people get married to that. Like it needs to be really hard and really challenging. It's like, what if it didn't? Like, what if it actually didn't have to be that hard? Like, what if it was easy? So that for me was huge because I was like, I had to really trust myself in the investment and everything to be like, I'm going to do this and then leverage it effectively and trust my execution in that. I think fourth thing is always allowing yourself to change, pivot, or evolve. You know, we get married to an identity. What are people going to think? I don't know if I can pivot out of this. I've like pivoted and pivoted and pivoted and pivoted again and again and again and again. It's like, it's got to be okay. It's like people are actually investing in your evolution. Allow yourself to evolve. And then I think the fifth thing is actually understanding that business is really, really, really fucking hard. And it's not supposed to be easy. And it's not easy. It's worth it. And I think when you understand that, your whole approach to it shifts because you're not waiting for it to just be easy and it takes off and it stays there forever. It's like, no, business will do this forever. Yeah. It's seasons. And if you're only thriving in the peak and then the minute it troughs you're out, then stay out. Like I say it with love, but stay out because it's never going to. It's not
made for you.
It's not. And that's entrepreneurship is like a daily commitment to, sorry to swear, but like the fuckery that is having a business. Some days
record an episode on this.
Some days you're flying. Some days you're like, I will never post anything to the internet again.
Yeah.
And that's the duality. That's the duality of it. And it's like, it's something that always drives me forward is like, but what if tomorrow something changes and I give up today?
Yeah.
I'm like, what if a podcast went up tomorrow? What if a piece of content went off tomorrow? What if an opportunity was there tomorrow and I stopped now? I'll never find out. So then I go, fuck, I better keep going.
Yeah.
I'm like in bed. Oh, damn it.
But you know what? Like I couldn't imagine life any other way. Like you could not pay me to work for someone else now.
That's
ever.
Me. And I've had seasons of it. Like I had a really hard time last year at different stages, not in my personal life, but it directly impacts business to some capacity. And I remember having a conversation with myself and I'm beside myself. My health was terrible. Like everything was just not in a good place. No one would have known that externally, but I knew what was going on. Yeah. And I remember looking in the mirror and thinking, okay, are you going to quit? Like, are you going to stop? And I was really like, okay, like, I guess I could. Like, it's always an option. I could just go have a normal job. And then I kind of just think about it in layers. I'm like, okay, and then this, and then this, and then this. And then I go, well, there is no other option.
Yeah.
Like, my option is I show up or I don't. But then what's that going to be? And then you kind of have this whole conversation and it always ends in, what other way would it ever be?
Yeah.
So you show up.
Sounds like you and Loz had the same self-talk last year.
Well, I always come back to my mantra, and it might be really masculine and some women might not like it, but what served me in the last 10 years of business is choose your hard. And I think that served me really well from the get-go, because it's made me realize I've never expected it to be easy. So every time, like you said, waiting for it to be easy, I'm like, no, it's fucking hard. But when, like you said, then I'm like, okay, what are you going to do? I'm going to go to a job. And then I'm like, then I've got to put my kid in daycare. And then I can't go traveling, or when I'm having a shit day when I just want to go, or the sun's really nice when I spend it at the beach, I have to go to work. And I'm like, yeah, like I'm gonna have a stable paycheck, and I don't really have responsibilities, but like that sounds hard to me. So I'll go back to choosing my hard. Like,
you think about the collateral in that. And I think it's this fine line between acknowledging like, yes, it's really difficult, but then also looking at where you make it hard for the sake of making it hard. I think some people make business hard because they want that sob story of like, I grind and I hustle and like I'm such a hard worker. And it's checking that in yourself where it's like, oh, where am I making things harder for the sake of making things harder? But I would argue that nothing in life is easy.
Yeah.
Like, is it having a 10-year relationship easy? No. Is being married for 50 years easy? No. Is having young kids easy? No. Nothing's easy.
Yeah.
So it's finding the fulfillment in the pursuit of what you're doing and staying more focused on that and not letting the stresses and the things that come up outweigh the thing that you're pursuing. Because it's like, you're not pursuing more money. You're not pursuing a certain goal. You're pursuing the feeling that thing allows you to experience. So keep that front of mind. I'm like, Riley, you're chasing contentment. That's it. So wake up.
And experience that now.
And experience
Enjoy
that now. Yeah. And emulate that feeling in every day, but stay so focused on that being the outcome. Like when you have young kids one day, what does life look like?
Yeah.
Okay, chase that. When you're 60, what does life look like? Okay, chase that, because I think your 20s and your 30s, really, I would say up until mid 40s, like I know Tony Robbins says it all the time, but like you're in summer and summer's hard and you're working shit out and it is confusing and you're questioning yourself often and you're in this building phase and it's trial and it's error and there's that constant confusion of like, is this right? Like, should I be doing this? And I think that translates across the board. It's not even in the form of business. It can be in like investing in property or houses or kids and marriage. And like, it's all happening in that period. So there's a lot of contemplation and questioning, but it's letting the action be messy and letting the contemplation exist, but staying so fixated in values and what you do want for yourself long-term. And you might not have a clear vision of like where you live and what you do and how many kids you have, but it's the vision of like, I know I want to feel content, so I'm going to be in pursuit of that. And I think that keeps you grounded and anchored.
Yeah. I also can't help but think like when I'm going through a tough time with business or whatever it might be, like I can't help but think about like how it's making me better. Like I always think about like, fuck, I'm going to have the best skill sets after this, or I'm going to be more resilient, or I'm going to be a better problem solver, or I'm going to be more empathetic for my own clients, like when they're going through something like this because I'm experiencing it. And that actually excites me. Like it's like the excitement of being better is what gets me through tough times in business.
And I think too, we often think of tough times financially. You know, when we're like, business is tough, we think, okay, finances. But then on the contrast of that, and I've got to remind myself of this, I've gone through seasons of earning a lot of money. You know, I remember I did like my first 100K month when I was 21. I was so young. And I've got perspective on that now that I don't have then. And I remember, I think I did a 70K month. This was when I had this experience. But I remember driving down the beach in the morning and I sat on the beach and I was just sitting there, as I did most mornings. And I remember thinking, like, nothing's changed. Like I just made all this money and it looks so good and I can like leverage it on socials and share it and celebrate the milestone. But the dishwasher needs to be unpacked. My car needs to go on for a service tomorrow. I've got some emails to get done this morning and I'll probably go to Woolies on the way home tonight to get mince to cook up for tacos or something. You know, nothing changed, but you kind of chase these goals and you put things on hold to experience because you can have that when you do this and you can experience that when you get to this milestone. And that season of my business really taught me that it was never about the money. It was never about the amount of clients you signed. It was never about the finances. And I'm so here for making more money. I love money. I love generating it, making it, talking about it, all the things, but it's not the reason. It's just the vehicle from what you're experiencing to what you want to experience. That's really it. And I think it's remembering that too, that sometimes you can be on such a high financially in your business, but business still doesn't feel that good.
Yeah.
So what are we chasing? That always told me that. I'm like, what am I chasing? Because I've just generated 6 figures in 4 weeks at 21. I don't feel that different. Life's not any different. It didn't change anything. It didn't make me a better person. It didn't and then the next day ticked over and Stripe went back to 0 and I just had to earn money again. It's just, I think we're never taught money. We're not taught making it. We're not taught generating it. We're not taught moving it or even how to behave with it. So I think that's been such a big journey for me in different ways where I'm like, wow, I can reflect back and go, that was random. Like doing that at that age was weird. And I probably didn't even know how to really handle it or what to even do with that or what that meant as well.
What do you think's been the biggest shift you've made with money, with your relationship with money? Because I know lots of people, we talk about business being a personal development journey, and I feel like a lot of us, we have a money story. Have you had to do much work on your money in business, like your story and your beliefs around it?
Absolutely. I feel like when I first started, I remember just thinking, I just want to earn like a normal salary. Like if I can earn 60K a year, and in my head, I'm like, I'm not qualified for anything. So if I can like make a uni wage, like if I could get the wage of a degree, I'm a baller. Like I just remember thinking like I have hacked the system. And I think I did. It was around like maybe 65, 70K that first year. And I said to Dad at the time, I'm like, see, I told you I'd do it. I was like, so my ego, like loving life. But I was so proud of myself. And then I think the following year was like 100 and something. Following year was 230. Following year was 740. And like things just kind of moved in that way. And a big thing for me was glass ceilings around what I thought was enough. So I remember thinking like 100K, that's enough. Like I don't even need to earn more than that. Who am I to earn more than that? My parents probably earn like around this per year. I've lived such a beautiful life. I grew up in Noosa. Like life was, I looked at the life I'd experienced and I was like, that's all I ever need. So if mum and dad's wage was around this, why would I need more than that? And for me, it was out earning people around me and being okay with that and allowing myself to want to out earn. So I remember doing like the 230K in a year. This is company also, not personal. And just thinking like, oh my God, like multi 6 figures. Like I did it. And then that following year rolled around and I profit planned for around 500K with my coach. And I remember thinking like, there is no way I'm doubling my income. And I'm like, 5? Like I just couldn't. I was like, 500K? Like, can I do that? And then it was 740 that year. And I remember just thinking like, wow, the limit actually doesn't exist. And it's only the limit you put on yourself. And that's such a hard thing, I think, for anyone to hear and really acknowledge and leverage. And I've had to really, I still to this day will always clock where I'm capping my potential of, even a while ago, my accountant said to me, you need to earn X amount per month to like cover overheads, have X amount left over. Like she just kind of gave me a bit of a number. And I remember thinking like, okay, cool. And then for months, all I was hitting was that. Like all I was hitting was the minimum amount that I needed to hit, which is still a very substantial amount, but the minimum amount I needed to hit. And I thought to myself after a couple of months, what's happening here? Because my income feels like it's capped right now, even though I've got the infrastructure, I've got the office suite, I've got everything to exceed that. It's not like it's a systems issue or a sales issue or a funnel issue. Why am I not earning more? And I'm like, because you have put a glass ceiling on all I need is this. And that's why every month you hit it, but never more or never less.
So interesting.
And I was like, what's that about? So it's like, even though you do the work, it'll still come up for you at every level. You're never beyond doing that, I don't think.
The work never ends. Not in business anyway.
It's like a lifetime commitment to continual growth and evolution. I think
literally.
And it's just making peace with that. I think the purpose of life to me is always to make progress. So I'm like, how cool that you're in a situation in your career and your life and your job that you just get to continually pursue growth. And sometimes that's uncomfortable. Sometimes that sucks. Sometimes you don't want to do it. But a lot of the time it's really beautiful. And a lot of the time it's incredible. And I even think right now, like, what is life? How are the three of us here?
Yeah. I had that feeling this morning.
It's weird.
This is so random. But this morning I was sitting like looking at the thunderstorm and I was like, what even is this? Like we live on this rock that is just floating in space and water is falling from the sky.
Yeah.
Like what?
Like really heavily too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's true. I think, sometimes it's like you get so it's always an analogy I think of, but I'm like, if I look at my phone or like this glass or this mic, even like really close to my face, if it's right here, I can't really see what it is. You know, I'm like, it's black. It's like, looks like, I don't know, it could be anything.
Big black bowl.
Like, my face. It's like, but if I step away, even just 1 foot, okay, cool, I've got perspective now. It's a microphone, amazing. If I step out 1 meter, oh, okay, there's a couch surrounding it, cool. Another, and just keep going. I've now got perspective. Sometimes with problems, we're looking at them so fucking closely.
Yeah.
There's no perspective, and you're so fixated on the thing that you can see that you're almost making an assumption based on the perspective or perception you have. And it's like,
Yeah.
step away.
Yeah.
Like, put it on the table, walk away, gain some clarity, look at what's around it, and then make a decision. But I think sometimes in life we get so fixed on seeing things one way, looking at things too closely, that we lack perspective.
Yeah.
And it's like, can you step away from the problem, away from the hard time, away from the challenge, away from the email that wasn't that nice from a client, away from whatever the thing is, and just go, okay, like, I'm seeing it for what it is. There's rain falling from the clouds. We're on a rock. Perspective. Come back in.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's so powerful.
Tell us like what a normal day looks like for you.
So I'm a Sagittarius and I love to just be doing something different every 3 minutes of my life. I'm always like, oh, it's been 2 months here. I'm bored. Where could I move to next? What can I do
You are
next?
a typical Sag.
Yeah, I'm the worst. I'm the worst. And I will say that. I'm like, how can I create chaos for myself today? I'm like, I'm bored. So typical day, I really value in, I guess, having a business freedom. And for me, that kind of does emulate in my days where I'm like, I don't really want to live the same day twice. I've got this really big irrational fear around like doing the 24-hour thing. I always feel like, oh, I like routine and I like my non-negotiables, but the thought of just wake up at 6, I do this, at 7, I do this, at 8, I do this, and that's on repeat 365. Stresses me out, really stresses me out. So I like to keep things different. I have structures that I follow, and I said this to a client the other day. I love my non-negotiables, whether it's like supplements that I take or movement or going on a walk or getting outside or whatever it looks like. Things happen, but I don't really care how, when, or where. So sometimes it might be like getting sun, but I'm like, well, the cafe looks really nice down there. I'm going to get sun there this morning, or it's the balcony, or I want to do yoga, or I want to just lay in my room in my bed. But I love the freedom of choice. And if everything's too rigid and similar, I feel like I've taken that away from myself. So it's the non-negotiables that are then met in my days. But something that I find supportive for my energy and I think how my brain works is first 4 hours is always creation mode. So if I'm like, I love to work from like 6:30 quite early to like 10:30. And if I can just be in full creation mode and I'm executing on money generating tasks, that's what I prioritize. So in that, I might be like, okay, client messages, DMs, I post to Instagram, I have to share on my stories, maybe a TikTok goes up and I'm responding to emails or creating something. That's that time. And then afternoon is always going to be like closing loop. So any like reactive or responsive tasks, like meetings, emails, DMs, whatever, but nothing that ever requires me to be in like creation mode because my brain's just, we're not working in the afternoon. And then I love a big break during the day as well. So I guess compared to what they were and what they are now, there's just a lot more choice, I would say, and freedom. And I used to be so fixed to, I think, trying to create this 9 to 5 environment for myself when business is really 24/7. So I'd be really fixed on like, you sit in your office and you work and you don't leave until it's 5 and you've got to be on. And if I had to even run a call not inside of my office, I'd really freak out. I was like, but people are not going to think I'm professional and this and that. And I've had to really dissolve that over the years and go, you created this business
for free
to be wherever you want it to be. So can you be down the beach and be responding to your DMs and Telegram versus sitting at your desk because you think you've got to be at your desk? I'm like, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You're just sitting in a different location. And that's been really cool for me in the last couple of years because I used to have so much anxiety and pressure around needing to be doing things in a certain way. And the minute I guess I moved to Bali and I did more travel and stuff, I'm like, well, you don't have an option. Like you are working from cafes every day or you are in different countries and time zones, so you make it work. And that just allowed me to like take the pressure off it needing to be perfect, I think, as well.
Yeah. I think that's like one of the number one mistakes that entrepreneurs make, like when they get into business, they like leave the box of the 9 to 5 and then they put themselves in another box like of 9 to 5.
Just create it all over again.
Yeah, and then they wonder why like they feel like they're on a hamster wheel in their business, and it's like, well, soften the rigidity and the boundaries that you've created, and like, what does freedom look like to you when you run your business?
Yeah.
I feel like I definitely got in those trenches for a couple of years. I ran my business for like a 9 to 5.
Oh, same.
And then I became a mum and I was like, oh, there goes all structure.
You're like, okay,
That was
and
nice.
softening.
Yeah.
It's also, I think, the association with success. It's like we're sold that success, equals love and validation and all moving parts. But then success also looks like hard work, and you have to hate it, and it's difficult, and it's draining, and it makes you tired, and it should zap your energy. So we just create that. It's like, okay, how can I create a routine that makes me feel tired, fatigued, drained, no energy, but hey, I worked really hard today, so I'm successful.
Yeah.
And we get married to that. So when, I know for me, if like I worked from my family home for the first couple of years, when like you're young and your mum like gets home, or your dad, and you just like jump up and start vacuuming, like pretend that you're doing the job that you weren't doing. I was doing that in my business. I'm like, well, I have to look busy, because if I'm laying in the sun at 12 o'clock on a Monday, what are mum and dad going to think? Like, I'm meant to be working full time. I'm meant to be, so you create that. And that's huge for so many entrepreneurs, because you make yourself busy doing nothing instead of prioritizing the things that are going to generate income, which sometimes is laying in the sun for an hour and having a thought outside of staring at a laptop.
That's like the biggest money thing too. I think that was a big money belief I had to crush in business, because you are, when you're in a job, it's a 9 to 5 because you're thinking I'm trading my time for money. But when you start creating leverage in a business, you're like, I don't have to be sitting 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I can work 2 or 3 high, like prioritized hours and make the same amount of money. So I remember for me, I felt like that was one of the things that helped me break up with that. I was like, I'm no longer a per hour thing. Stop treating your business about how many hours you're sitting at a desk doing it. It doesn't work like that.
And then how hard is that conditioning to break as
So
well?
hard.
It's like even school, we're there for 8 hours, and that's how you learn, and that's how you become smart, and that's how you this. So if you miss a lesson, I remember I was so bad at school, like not like academically, I was actually quite smart in not math, but like the things that I was good in. I was like great at English, and I was a good speaker, and I was good in bio and different things. But I remember I just never went to school, like grade 10 for different reasons. I had like, I think 14 weeks I missed or something like that. I was really bad from like grade 10 onwards. But the interesting thing in that, it's like it didn't affect anything. I still got good grades, still got into occupational therapy, like everything still moved. And I think and I think entrepreneurs in general have this in common from like a characteristic and trait perspective. We're stubborn, and we've got to be stubborn enough to want to do what we do, and then delusional enough to think it'll work.
Yeah.
Like you do, because really, who would choose this consciously? Like the humans crave stability, and we crave security, and you become an entrepreneur, like none of that exists anymore. Like you've got to create
crazy.
it. Yeah. So you do have to have a little bit of like crazy in you, because a lot of people would just never put themselves in a position to be like, am I earning money next week? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like that's a pretty massive risk. So when you do operate with that level of like kind of fuck the rules, and you're not good at following rules, you then create your own. And then it's interesting where you go, oh, I'm still married to a couple. Like I've gone against so many, but then
there's still this.
The 8-hour thing's still playing out for me, or whatever else it is. So it's just an unlearning. I think you become an entrepreneur, you start your own stuff, and you spend forever unbecoming.
Yeah. I can totally agree with that one.
Yeah.
Which was going to lead me to one of my last questions for you. In your years of personal development that we never stop growing, what's been your most recent breakthrough or lesson?
Oh, it's so funny, isn't it? Because I think there's just things like, if not daily, it's like all the time you're like, wow, it's another thing that I'm moving through. I think recently it's probably been even around money, and just coming to terms with being young, and then being okay with you actually can generate a lot of money even though you're young. I think I noticed a part where I was like, but you've got so much time, like don't rush earning that money. And then I could notice on the other side of that, it was almost because I thought that once I did it, whatever milestone, that it would never happen again. It was kind of like a one-off. So like, give yourself more time. Like hit it when you're older, or hit it when it's like, you know, later in your career or whatever else. And I'm like, well, isn't that interesting that I think it can only happen once? So I just noticed a couple of blocks around that, and what I was even probably putting out on the scenes in terms of socials and whatnot, in not fully claiming like who I am, what I do, and how I help. Because if I water that down, I won't earn the money, and then I'm going to soothe myself in that way. And you can kind of see the flow and effect of like a limitation that you've placed on yourself. And when you can kind of do that little mind map in your head of like, I believe this, and I can see where I'm like letting that dictate this, and then this, and then this, and then this, I'm like, okay, I need to dissolve this. So right now, that's definitely been my work around, can it be okay that that is possible? You know, it's possible, you can achieve it.
Yeah.
And you can probably do it over and over and over and over, and just keep building on that.
Isn't it funny how our brains work? But also, how's the self-awareness? Like, that's my favorite part. And it's my favorite part of this podcast. It's like talking to people like yourself who like, they have the self-awareness to be like, I'm calling myself out on my own shit. This is like, yeah, to be able to distinguish that is like such a huge thing. So
I think you have to have it in business. You know, I'm really, really big on like emotional intelligence and self-awareness, because I think something that exists too much these days is a lot of love and light, and a lot of see your power and have compassion and empathy for yourself. And as much as I'm so big on that, at the same time, tell me where I am being shit. Tell me where I am capping myself. Tell me where I am letting my limitations just completely dictate decisions I'm making or the way that I'm showing up. And I had a conversation with someone the other day about this, and in any relationship, a non-negotiable for me absolutely is like, if you don't challenge me, like
we're not on.
This can't work. Intimate relationship, friendship, parent, whatever. You have to challenge me. I don't want you gassing me up. I can do that myself. You know, and I think there's a place for that. There's a place for support. But to me, support looks like you calling me out. It doesn't actually look like you always being like, you're amazing and you're incredible. You know, when you ask for reflection, someone's like, no, you're doing really well.
Then you're like, tell me the truth.
It's like, okay, I know that, but that's not going to better me in any way. It's like, I want someone who can go, hey, I noticed you post this and I feel like you're being this, and I reckon you could do that better. And I'm like, true.
Yeah.
Because that's growth.
Yeah.
So yeah, a couple of things in that, but just if you don't have a boss, you have to be your boss, right?
Yeah, so
and for
true.
me, I'm like, there's got to be that inner critic that doesn't take away from what I'm doing, but also calls me out on what I'm doing. You know, if you don't have that inner critic being like, you know, I think a lot of women have a wound around like not enoughness, like in whatever area. Sometimes I think there's truth to it, right? Where it's like, if I am doing something and it's not good enough, like sometimes it isn't good enough. And that's actually okay. And that's just true. You know, it's the conversation before around like, you get to that point in business where you're like, am I still doing this? Like, what would it look like if I just threw it in and like didn't do it anymore? I remember getting to that point a couple of times, and not that I was serious, but your mind goes there. And I would say, are you doing everything you could possibly do right now to generate the result that you want? And then I would just go through really simple things. Are you posting daily? No. Are you selling daily? No. Are you like messaging that person you worked with once? No. Are you posting your podcast consistently? No. Are you sending out an email? No. Okay. Well, no, you don't get to quit, because what you're doing is not good enough. Like, and that's a reality. It's like, if you're doing everything in your power to generate the result and it's not working, okay, we can have that conversation. Yeah. But sometimes you do have to go to yourself, like, I've got so much more to give.
So true.
And the effort I'm applying is actually
not the best.
No.
That's like my whole like view on imposter syndrome. I have like a view on imposter syndrome, and it's like a lot of people don't like me explaining it like this, but I just don't believe in it. I just believe that imposter syndrome is just like, A, you have not done the work to feel worthy enough, and B, you're not doing good enough.
But it's funny
true.
Because, and it's not even, I think if you, again, emotional intelligence, if you feel any way hearing stuff like that, it's just a mirror. So you get to go,
there's some part of it that you believe, otherwise it wouldn't trigger you.
Exactly. And it's like, that's, and people spend forever trying to run away from triggers. It's like, triggers are an opportunity to grow. If you're triggered, sit there and go, fuck, okay, maybe there's something in that for me. I'm big on that. I think imposter syndrome is an internal compass clocking where you're not in integrity.
100%. And I love talking to people who agree with it, because like, I don't know who invented the name imposter syndrome, but I feel like sitting her down on the couch and being like, can we rewrite this story? Because there's people actually out there who are self-proclaiming like, I have imposter syndrome, and they're sitting in that. And I'm like, babe, come on. Like, we are better than this. Like, you can move through this. We can do self-worth work. You can see your worth and see what it is that you're able to provide in this world, but like
have an honest conversation with yourself, and are you doing the work that's going to make you feel worthy?
Yeah, like if you feel like you have imposter syndrome, maybe it's because you aren't good enough and
it's
you
like
can
a
be
lack
better.
of confidence will never lead to confidence or conviction in your message or what you're teaching. So I've been there. I feel like an imposter, and guess what? I had no fucking clue what I was talking about. That's why I felt like an imposter,
because I
because
had to do the reps, and I had to earn the badge of honor to be like, all right,
God,
I deserve to be here now because I actually did the work.
If someone asked me like, can you elaborate on that? I would have been like, no, because what's written on my screen is all I know about it, right? So and that was very, very early on, probably like, I reckon, 2020, like
I think we've all been there.
Totally. It's like I created a masterclass and I Googled everything, and as much as I knew it, I didn't trust myself to deliver it. Like it wasn't, I think it was like confidence or trust or something. Like it wasn't even a big conversation, but I just didn't trust that I could talk about trust. So the irony in that, but it's, it's something now I always, say to my clients, it's like embodiment will always sell. Coming back to selling, if you're embodied in the transformation that you're selling, you will sell with ease. It's like a lot of people feel resistance to sell or convert, but it's like you are not an embodiment of what you're speaking to. So if you can really get behind that, knowing that you could be like half asleep, eye mask on, like hair bonnet on, whatever, and someone's like, hey, feminine-led sales, talk to me about it, and you can riff, you're good. If you can't, because your laptop's not in front of you, or you just need to look at something quickly, or then don't speak about it. Like just wait. You're not there yet. And just wait. It could be a month. But just wait. Integrate, then teach.
Last rapid fire question.
So we'll keep
who are you celebrating right now?
To be honest, I feel like there's a lot of my clients, but there's 4 women in particular that I'm really celebrating, because I think they're at a stage right now where they're seeing themselves clearly, and that's starting to be reflected in brand and messaging, and then they're reaping the benefit of that. It contradicts what we just said, but I feel like a lot of women don't see themselves clearly, or their identities wrapped up in who they were, not who they are. And it's a huge blind spot in even conversion and messaging and brand, because it's like, drop the version of you in 2023, drop the version of you in 2022. Like, you are who you are now, and you get to step into your authority in that way.
So good. It has been so fun chatting with you. I feel like this could have been a Joe Rogan style 3-hour episode.
Yeah, we could keep going. we did warn at the start though, didn't we? So we had 3 yappers on the couch.
Love a chat.
No, thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. And we are celebrating you. We love what you stand for and how you show up online. And it's definitely like, it's so refreshing to see a woman online just like absolutely crush it, but also helping so many people. So congratulations, and wishing you the best 2025. Thanks for being our first guest this year.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And celebrating you both as well.
Thank you. I hope you're feeling inspired after that conversation, and it's empowered you to make some amazing changes and choices in your life. Don't forget, let us know if you love this episode by giving us a 5-star review. It really helps to know that we're on the right track with serving you guys, and it also really supports our channel as well. If you head over to the link in our bio on Instagram, you'll get access to all of our goodies, including our signature 8-week container, Her Renaissance. And don't forget, head over to the show notes. Make sure you check out any of the links, the books, or the references that we mentioned in this episode. And before we go, we just want to say thank you so much for being here, for being committed to your best self, and for showing up for you today. You are amazing. If you think that there is someone in your life that could really benefit from this episode, while you're feeling super inspired, please hit that share button, or you can share it on your Instagram. Make sure you tag us. We really want to empower others with our message and our purpose. So by you sharing, it just really helps us elevate that mission and message out to the world. and really helps us to inspire more people. So head over to www.babestalkingbusiness.com. Check out all of our other podcast episodes, and we are sending you so much love. See you soon.